Welcome, fellow listeners, to episode 1 of the True Crime Archives podcast. I am your host, CJ Data.
With co-host Pete McCarthy.
Alright, yeah, so anyhow, the subject today we are going to be covering is the Oklahoma City bomber, Timothy Mcveigh. Where did it all start? What made him this way? And what led to this terrible act? But, so this is the story of Timothy Mcveigh and discussion. So like all monsters, they have to start somewhere. Obviously, they start out as children, just like the rest of us. So let's just do a little thing here. All right, so Timothy E. James McVeigh was born on April 23rd, 1968, in Lockport, New York.
Which was on the very edge of New York.
Yeah, it's in New York State, not city. In fact, and apparently it was a really fairly conservative area. It's probably the most conservative area of New York State there is.
Yeah, it is. It's as far as from the capital as you can really get.
Yes, so he grew up. So basically, both of his parents, worked and worked, especially his father. His father worked just pretty much nonstop to try to support his family.
Okay.
But unfortunately, that led to complications in his parents' marriage because they divorced, and while he chose to stay with his father, I believe the rest of his siblings went with his mother. So, if anything, and so as a young kid, he was odd but shy, but also very intelligent.
Yeah, it said he became interested in computers.
Yes, definitely. So,
but it is said that he did have back grades, so clearly he didn't pay attention to school and whatnot.
Yeah, he was also a target of bullying because he didn't really fit in much of the other kids, and he basically took refuge in a fantasy where he retaliated against the bullies in his own way.
Yeah.
Yeah, so.
And apparently it was his grandpa who introduced him to guns.
Yes, it was. In fact.
And that's when he started becoming intensely interested in, like, the Second Amendment and stuff like that.
Yeah, which I'm into the Second Amendment as well. I'm not gonna go to the lengths he did, but so basically he eventually, kind of started, doing like got into survivalist type things. He read survivalist magazines where he came across what would ultimately become his quote-unquote Bible, a novel, a racist quote, science fiction. I don't know exactly what makes it science fiction, but I digress. Science fiction novel called The Turner Diaries. which was written under a pseudonym. The real guy was a neo-Nazi and a prevalent member of the National Alliance. And so basically, and also, despite that description of the Turner diaries, which we will get to later. But anyway, so he also, and he also did, though, speaking of his computer stuff, he was, in his senior year, named most promising computer programmer of Start Point Central High School. He graduated in 1986, which is 2 years before my parents got married, but whatever. And so after kind of working dead-end jobs, and especially where he lived, ended up in Pendleton, New York. That's pretty much small town, really not much,
And at some point, he ended up joining the military, though, at some point.
Yes, indeed. In May 1988, again, that's never gets me. At the age of 20, he enlisted in the United States Army.
And that's when, of course, he was able to learn think more about guns and all that fun stuff.
Yeah, and he was
and then he also get in trouble for wearing a racist shirt, and he got in trouble for that.
Yeah. It's also, even though that's a detail a lot of these documentaries tend to leave out, because again, it's kind of small compared to what he ultimately did. But anyway, so yeah, he took pride in the military, but unfortunately, he kind of became a little disillusioned. But also, this is where he met his would-be partners, known as Terry Nichols and Michael Fortier. Now, they both had some similar interests, like distrust of the government, very into, guns and stuff like that. So anyway, in his military life, he ended up, basically, after returning, from the Gulf War, he actually wanted to enter the Green Berets, but he couldn't because he was wore out at that point. So yeah, he was honorably discharged in 91. Which, post life, So yeah. So
yeah, and afterwards, didn't he write a bunch of letters saying things like "I hate taxes" and stuff like that?
Yeah, and he also wrote, like a representative by the name of John J. LaFalce, I don't know how you say that, a Democrat representative out of New York, complaining about the arrest of a woman for carrying mace, which I'm not going to go into that. So anyway, he also
yeah, and eventually he eventually come to think that the government was tracking him and everything.
Yeah, he definitely had paranoia.
it even said he started. If I remember, he started picking up excessive gambling until he just wasn't able to pay up his debt.
Oh yeah, that's definitely not debt you want to be in. And like, he did have a close relation. He did have a good relationship with his older sister, like, and she tried, like, tell her about anti-government literature, which his father really just had no interest and was probably concerned about him at that point, And so that eventually he just moved out of his father's house, and he moved into like some apartment that had no telephone, which is kind of important, and because every house kind of had a home phone,
Oh yeah, and this was the '90s, so I mean, cell phones weren't too big of a deal back then.
Well, yeah,
home phones.
Yeah, they were definitely just starting to come around. Like with the Motorola Dynatac, car phones were now starting to hit the market.
Yeah, they were literal bricks. You would have this huge thing that you had to carry around.
Yeah, but anyway, the result of it, like, if his employers wanted him for overtime assignments, they had no way of contacting him. I guess that's one way to escape responsibility, I guess.
I guess, yeah.
And also, apparently he was an NRA member at one time, but, like, he left because he believed they were way too weak on gun rights, which that's a topic for another day, if I even get to that. So, now we get into the heart of the matter. Now, here's where we get to the heart of the matter. So, in '93, basically, the ATF, like near the turn of the century, or the late 20th century, were involved in two very controversially questionable incidents.
Yeah.
Such as the Ruby Ridge, was already enough with him, like the Ruby Ridges, but the Waco, Texas, just seemed to just make him snap,
I know, that's when he starts getting really a bit too into it.
Yeah, very radical. Very radical. In fact, he was actually not far from it, and he was actually joining protesters against the whole thing, which, while I have my own opinion on Waco, Texas, it's Waco, Texas. It's not something I'm not even going to go into that because then again, I'll just be rambling on and really just kind of getting further off topic, but anyway, so yeah, it really made him mad. In fact, it was a controversial incident for sure.
Yeah, and then he also literally traveled across almost the entire U.S. visiting different gun shows.
Yeah.
He was almost everywhere.
Yeah, granted, I've only been to gun shows in the state of Utah, but that's another story. But anyway, apparently those were convenient meeting places for these really radical people, which were becoming very prevalent in the 90s. Yeah, the 90s has a darker side to it,
Yeah.
Especially politically, there are some darker sides to it. So anyway, during that whole protest against Waco, he was distributing like basically anti-government propaganda and like stuff. Like one thing he had was like he had an ATF hat with makeshift bullet holes in it.
Oh yeah, I heard about that. And then wouldn't he like try and sell them too?
Yeah, and then of course some bumper stickers saying when guns are outlawed, I will become an outlaw. That's honestly pretty common. That's been around way before that.
I know that's been around way before that.
Yeah, it's kind of like my cold dead hands quote. That's been a bumper sticker since my parents were kids. So, if anything, what I know, and also what I know, when he was reading over and over the Turner Diaries, all I can say about it, to be honest, is that while people mainly point that like what he did, like basically there's a part where they bomb an FBI building with a similar type of bomb that he used. There are other things that I've noticed,
Okay.
There are other things I've noticed with doing research on the book that also like include with this as well. But anyhow, and also, all right. So, what is this book, The Turner Diaries? As I explained earlier, but now we're gonna discuss what it is. There are some. I got my notes here, and I here with kind of a description and kind of what goes on here. All right, so let's just kind of go over the plot, what this is here. And I do warn you, this part is disturbing. Some things you're about to see are about to be disturbing, so you have been warned. All right, so it takes place, and it's a revolutionary, white supremacist, political science fiction novel. Even though I don't get what makes it science fiction, does it being set in the distant future make it science fiction? I don't know. I don't consider it just from reading it. But all right, so it takes place in 2099, 100 years after the events depicted. Which bizarre. So, all right, so it's presented as a personal journal of Earl Turner, who was an active member of a white revolutionary movement. In the story, as the story begins, the federal government has confiscated all civilian firearms in the country under the Cohen Act. I have no idea how you say that. Am I saying that right? Turner and his cohorts take their organization underground in order to wage sort of just a war against what the book calls the system, which is already a non-intimidating name. It's really generic.
It's pretty generic.
Which is depicted as being under, like controlled by Jews and like other minorities. And it's just, and honestly, where did this whole Jewish or running everything come from? I know Hitler, but where did... Anyway, I'll never stand it. Alright, so, like the system, like it implements numerous repressive laws against various forms of prejudice, like making it a hate crime for a white person to defend themselves when crimes are committed against them by non-whites, which, and even after all, like the weapons have been, like taken from them, and pushing for new surveillance measures in order to monitor its citizens, such as requiring them to have special passports all the time in all places in order to permanently monitor where they are. The organization, like it starts by committing acts such as bombing of the FBI headquarters in D.C., which we'll get to what that eventually became. Then carrying on relentless low-level campaign of resistance, assassination, economic sabotage. And also another thing that was funny, the guy who wrote this was a physicist by trade, which I think is funny because Hitler... Didn't Hitler resent physicists?
I'm pretty sure he was against Jewish science. I can't remember if he classified that as...
Yeah, he did. But alright, so Turner plays a large part of these, horrific activities in Washington, D.C. When the President of the United States delivering speech, each denouncing racism and demanding that all members of the organization be brought to justice. Turner and the organization members launch mortars into the streets of Washington from far away, forcing the president and other government officials to be evacuated. In another scene, Turner watches an anti-racism parade on television in which whites who are not part of the parade are pulled aside and beaten sometimes to death by non-white marchers. Seriously, I'm starting to wonder, how paranoid are they of these people?
Probably pretty paranoid.
The march eventually turns into a full-scale riot because, of freaking course, Turner exploits its lead in his initiation into the Order, a secret rebel group that consists of an elite group of masterminds of the revolution who are secretly leading the organization and whose existence remains unknown both to ordinary organization members and the system. Later, and there's a lot of stuff I've kept out of my notes. So later, his turnout is eventually raided by law enforcement, and during an ensuing gun battle with the authorities, everyone in the unit manages to escape, but Turner is captured after nearly being killed. He's been arrested and sent to a military base for interrogation by the FBI and an Israeli intelligence officer. And apparently this intelligence officer says he enjoyed torturing Nazis even though they were innocent, and also the sham trial given to, he was the architect of the Holocaust. I can't remember his name offhand.
You talk about Adolf Eichmann, I think. Adolf Eichmann.
Yeah. Surprisingly, I forgot. I just put in my notes the architect of the Holocaust, which again, whatever. So yeah, which is ridiculous, honestly. And of course he's tortured, in an effort to coerce the release of information but resist. The interrogators fail, of course, to extract the most valuable piece of information, lacking awareness of existence of the Order. However, speaking of the Order, there is a radical cult called the Order. Something, I don't remember what it is. It's a year also, but I think they're a polygamous cult or something called the Order. But anyhow, he reviews some information later. Months later, other members of the Order rescue him from prison. They inform him that he'll be punished sometime in the future for failing to resist while in captivity. Like, what was that? Basically, apparently he was given this cyanide capsule he was supposed to take if he ever got captured. But he doesn't do that.
So dang, being an agent is a pretty dangerous job. Because if you get caught, you even have to deal with with a real possibility of torture and execution, or having to commit suicide.
Yeah, but either way, again, but he wasn't really an agent. He's literally just a radical soldier,
Yeah.
Radical soldier.
So,
and all.
Then we kind of diverge from the topic on hand.
Well, kind of, but I'm trying to give people a taste of what this book is really like.
Okay.
And also, there's this whole, sort of... And also, there are other, problems with this book. Also, there is not only a bunch of misogyny, but also there's hints of pedophilia. There's also... So anyhow, they basically make a white stronghold in California, which is funny, but anyway. And all that we get once they've gotten everybody out, all it said is that they pick fruit all day, which, why? It's never explained. And also what this novel really fails to do is say why you should believe this in the first place. Because pretty much all the characters are basically like, oh, they just told me they're doing this. So you're gonna go off with what somebody said.
Some dude is just like, oh yeah, by the way, it's like this, and it's like, oh yeah, you know what, that sounds pretty legit.
And of course, But
hey, that's how they get people, though. They use clever words and everything to get you to think like they do.
All right. So if anything, there's also my notes here. I also have also saying that basically, he finds out that, oh, this is what God wants, everything to be white. And I'm just coming from somebody who's never been religious. Okay, I highly doubt, especially in this day and time, that's going to win over an agnostic or even atheist.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure. That's not going to work.
Highly doubt it, but I can't be sure, But all right, so
and even then, if you look at what happened in real life, a lot of it didn't really turn to religion. A lot of them went to just pseudoscience sort of stuff.
So let's put it to you this way. I'm just gonna skip a lot of this stuff because a lot of this you could probably guess where it's going. But basically where Earl Turner ends up what ends up being his fate, he basically pilots a crop duster equipped with some nuclear bomb and pretty much causes suicide bombs the Pentagon.
Okay.
Did Al-Qaeda read this part?
I know, right? Jeez, I was like, that kind of hits a bit too close to home.
Yeah, and also, but one thing definitely Timothy McVeigh did when he was trying to, apparently, the Taliban, I think it was, tried to do a similar bombing with a truck bomb. It wasn't as effective as his, whatever it may be, but he studied it. So he studied his enemy's stuff.
Yeah, he did.
Anyway, but then again, it seems like a lot of bad people like to borrow from their enemies or steal from their enemies.
I mean, hey, I guess history repeats itself.
So let's just kind of get what the end game of this is, and trust me, it's pathetic. It's pathetic. So, anyway, So basically, the end of the book. After that happens, the organization, the order, or organization, whatever you want to call it, basically bombs the Soviet Union and pretty much a bunch of different places. And what ends up, the world that they've created, honestly, this does not sound. This sounds more like a dystopia than anything else. Basically,
oh yeah, isn't there like some kind of patriarchal, all-white society that's run by dictatorship?
Yes, but also think about it. Their whole thing is contradictory to what. So basically, the system is getting them with fear and brutality, but yet they do the same thing.
Yep, they do the same exact thing. They form their own dictatorship. It's like, okay, that's kind of hypocritical.
Yeah, hypocritical, definitely. And also, pretty much, and there are some lands caused by those nuclear strikes that has caused, in certain areas where no life can survive, and also, pretty much as an all-right society, we're not given any information on what technology is like, music is like, or anything like that. All racial minorities have been wiped out, so there's only white people left on the earth. With that being said, it kind of leads up to the imagination on who is and who isn't a racial minority. Due to the, context being so vague. Also, people wiped out are people who don't agree with their views, and pretty much they rule over their people with fear and brutality, the one thing they claim to be fighting against. And so, yeah, very contradictory. And of course, anybody with a functioning mind realize this is the point where they have become what they've sought to destroy. But no, apparently it's okay if they're doing it, but it's bad when the system was doing it. Kind of a double standard, if I say so myself. And also, in the society, women are not seen as people. In conclusion, this is one of the most vile, most hateful, most just disgusting pieces of literature ever made. I will never understand the hate behind these people. Never, till my dying days, will I ever even remotely understand why they think this abhorrently. There are several things I forgot to mention here, like the fact that there's a part in the book where Turner kills 2 teenage girls with a crowbar because they're quote-unquote sluts, because they're attracted to somebody who's not white and want to be in the company of them. Absolutely filthy. It's absolutely just disgusting. Seriously, how is this world that they create beneficial to the person reading or anyone else in this world? Oh, that's right. It's not. And it's not a sustainable society if that. You cannot sustain society based on hate. It is 100% not possible in the long run. It will crumble. So yeah, you did all this for what? I'm literally at a loss for words. I cannot think of any way this will be beneficial to society or anyone else, but this is their fantasy. This is the best case scenario for these people. This is where white supremacy ends for these people. Apparently. There's a lot I could say that I forgot to mention, but I'm going to leave it up to your imagination the horrors that happen in this book. So unspeakable. Honestly, I felt sick just researching and reading some of this stuff. So yeah, most hateful piece of literature that has no benefit to anyone. So anyway, now that you get a gist of what this book is like and what kind of happens here, and also one thing that definitely is saying, like he was mad about, that the ATF killed all those children at women and children in Waco, but yet he had no problem when he did this. He killed those people as well. But then again, there's another thing that's in this book, and it's the last thing I'll say on the matter is that apparently that there's the book continually says there's no such thing as a good excuse. There's no excuse for failure. But even they don't seem to follow that either. But anyway, all right, let's get back to this. So anyway, after the Waco siege, he ended up going to live with his, like his buddy from the army, Terry Nichols.
Yeah, then he spent some time in Arizona too.
Yeah, he spent some Arizona with that other guy. What was his name?
I can't remember.
Michael Fortier, where they did use drugs such as meth and acid, which is already paranoia. That's not going to help anything. I don't think that's going to help anything at all. So anyway, so now let's get to this whole thing of what ended up coming to be. Timothy McVeigh, Terry Nichols, and I think Michael Fortier to a degree, they started collecting this type of fertilizer and this type of gasoline, which mixed together apparently makes something very destructive.
I mean, yeah, but he was just a mess waiting to happen.
Yeah, it's a mess waiting to happen. So they put it in a rental truck. Then it's unknown why he chose this one in particular. Though an ATF office was there, Okay, first of all, I'm gonna say I don't really care for what a lot of the ATF has to say, but I'm not gonna go bomb the building over it.
I know, but that's just a bit too extreme.
Yeah, because anyway, while I do have choice words to say about some of them and but honestly, this happens with every single type of, like federal organization throughout the world too. They'll step out of line, and I'm trying to dabble into politics the least as possible, but it's kind of hard to do when a lot of this does involve a lot of politics.
I mean, yeah, this is a heavily political thing.
So,
yeah.
And also, apparently they didn't purchase all this stuff either. They actually went to a quarry, and I think in either Oklahoma or Kansas, and stole some charges. So not only is this guy radical, he's also a thief. These guys are not only radical terrorists, they're also freaking thieves. Good to know. Now we get to that fateful day. Now, apparently, even though things are kind of split on this, for one reason or another, Michael Fortier and Terry Nichols did not accompany him. So Yeah, and he also renounced his U.S. citizenship, which I don't know what would have happened to him, despite him being born in America. But I don't know. So, all right. So let's just get to this. So let's get to the thing that shocked the nation. And so, of course, thing. They rented a truck and they packed apparently it was barreled like oil barrels with about 5,000 pounds or 2,300 kilograms of ammonium nitrate and nitromethane. I think that's how you say it.
No, nitromethane.
Yes, and so on April 19th, 1995. Here we go. So he drove this truck into to be specific, the Alfred P. Murrah Federal Building, just as offices were just about to open for the day. Before arriving, he stopped to light the fuse, and at exactly 9:02 a.m., a large explosion apparently only got away 3 blocks just as it exploded. And the result was it killed 168 people, including 19 children in the daycare center, and injured 684 others.
Jeez.
And he said, he did not know there was a daycare center in there and might have chosen a different target if he'd known about, which I'm not sure I believe, because according to the book, it doesn't. While it's unfair that it states that while it's unfair that some innocent people have to lose their lives, it has to be done. Which is absolutely disgusting and ludicrous.
Yeah, he was definitely. Yeah, you could definitely tell that this guy was in the deep end.
Oh yeah, definitely. So anyway, and here's the fun. All right, so outside of town, he was driving his car. I think he either had a fake license or had no driver's license. But I know one thing for sure: he did not have a license plate on his car. So the state trooper I will tell you, if that highway patrolman actually went, because obviously it was all over his radio, if he went to assist, he would have gotten away for who knows how long.
Oh yeah, he would have gotten away with it for who knows how long if it wasn't for that.
And who knows? At first it was, thought to be, like a Middle Eastern terrorist, but when it turned out it was done by a very own American, everybody was shocked, Shocked. But anyhow, when the cop pulled him over, he was originally just going to give him a citation, but he noticed a bulge in his jacket.
And then he realized he had a gun and all that.
All right, so he knows he had a gun, and he was also clearly had no carry permit for it. And I do believe hearing it was filled with it had, well, illegal at the time, armor-piercing handgun ammunition.
Yeah, and it said that he was wearing a shirt that had anti-government phrases on it.
Yeah, I think that's what they ended up saying. But he had a jacket on too, and that's when he noticed the bulge. And he looked at the officer, just smirked, and said, "My gun's loaded, officer." Then he pulled out his. He's like, "Mine is too. Get out." So yeah, they had him in the back of the car, and he was just about ready to post bond. bond, but a federal officer who suspected that, he may be it, they said, don't let him go.
Yeah, but it's like, don't let him go. We gotta make sure that he really is hit the person.
So anyway, after that whole thing, let's just say this, he didn't even deny that he did it. He never really showed any remorse. And Terry Nichols, once Timothy McVeigh became known, he surrendered himself to law enforcement as well.
Oh, yeah. And Terry Nichols is currently incarcerated at ADX Florence.
That's in Colorado, right?
Yep, that's in Florence, Colorado.
Yeah. You ever been to Florence, Colorado?
Oh, no, that's not one of them. I've not been to that area yet.
So, anyway, but Michael Fortier, he just kind of surrendered also, and he agreed to testify against them. Which, in the end, Timothy McVeigh got sentenced to death by lethal injections.
And Nichols ended up getting sentenced to just life in prison. He's never getting out.
Yeah, he's never getting out. And also, Michael Fortier, due to his cooperation, only got 12 years, which I'm pretty sure he's out now.
Yeah.
Which I'm pretty sure he's out.
And I know Timothy McVeigh was at one point ADX Florence, but then moved to Terre Haute, Indiana.
Yeah, I think that was for execution.
Yeah, that was where he was executed. That's where he was executed.
Yeah, it's a really sad situation here. So anyway, that's just kind of how it is. And yeah, to say that this and also, despite what he did, and despite all he did, while more people believe there's a bigger conspiracy, like he had help from other radical militia groups at the time. So anyway, kind of lost my train of. Oh yeah, there was no evidence he belonged to any extremist groups, but like his own mission, So yeah, it was. Yeah, it's not. So, yeah, that's definitely. And yeah, that's pretty much the story. He let his paranoia and radicalism get the best of him. I'm pretty sure he had some mental issues too.
Oh yeah, I'm pretty sure he did.
But yeah, I cannot imagine how his siblings felt. Especially some of the people who knew him growing up, especially the priests from his church. I cannot imagine it. Apparently, before a few days before, and some side notes, apparently before a few days, or like, it was like sometime, like before this bombing, his grandfather passed away, who was sadly was one of his only best friends growing up.
I mean, that probably didn't help any matters.
Yeah, definitely not. And also him doing drugs and... Well, however you feel about Ruby Ridge and Waco, Texas, nobody can deny that it's definitely a controversial thing to be... That's for sure.
It is.
So he was executed on June 11th, 2001 at age 33.
A bit of a young age.
If I remember correctly, that was, and correct me if I'm wrong, I don't know if I was listening to something else and it was this, but apparently he was the first federal execution in some time, in the state in some time.
I can't remember, but it wouldn't surprise me.
Yeah, it is very just unbelievable, this type of evil, but unfortunately, this can happen to any human on Earth. And it's very unfortunate that the things had to turn out the way they did, but that's just a reminder that there is just pure evil out there. There is no denying that people like this exist in our very own homeland.
They exist literally everywhere.
Alright, so, well, everybody, thank you all for listening. Again, this is the first episode, so I don't know how good it's going to turn out, but yeah. But stay tuned for the next episode, where we're planning to do, by Pitt McAfee's request, the Toy Box Killer.
Alright. Well, this is gonna be some stuff.
Yep, definitely. So, good night, audience.
Good night, everyone. See you next time.
Yep. Signing out.